Hailing from Mumbai, Dr. Vidya Srinivasan is not only a legendary teacher, but a visionary too. She has received a doctorate from the Tata Institute of Social Science and has developed, nurtured and spearheaded the growth of MSW and MHRM at the DG Vaishnav College. Her 36 years of experience has paved way for achieving her dream of writing a book, the HRD Almanac.
The HRD Almanac provides a contemporary text for all those studying HR and for those entering into the profession for the first time. What is the book about? What does it have in store for the readers? Why is it called the Almanac? What was the driving force behind the book? Let's hear it from the author herself.
The HRD Almanac is the first step towards your writing journey. Can you just bring about the emotion that you experienced during this entire saga?
The idea of writing this book was generated about a couple of years back when I was going through the process of training students, making them write drafts and teaching the subject HRD. I have been teaching HRD for the last more than 22 years now, and over this period of 2 decades, I found that I don't have an identity that I can call my own without the students being part of it. So in the process of correcting these drafts that were part of the teaching of the subject, it struck me that why not we put this together in some kind of a unified whole, which would be very beneficial to youngsters in the field. So the thought of this book came from actually my teaching experiences.
The title HRD Almanac seems very catchy. Can you tell us more about the book and how did you come out with the title?
When we put the book together as 25 chapters, we looked at the format of each chapter. Every chapter contributes to something that answers the basic questions of what, why, how, where and when. I was researching this and I was talking to some of the students who have passed out and some practicing HR, and a suggestion came to me that why not we call it an almanac. If you look at the dictionary meaning of almanac is a compendium or a handbook. But another meaning of almanac is calendar of events, which in Indian tradition actually is called the Panchangam. And look at this book answering some basic questions like what is this and how is it being done, where is it being done, what are the challenges. And so this term almanac seemed to fit into the topic very well.
What do you think is the difference this book has compared to some of those which would be also addressing on the same topics? I think by the way you explained, it looked as if it had certain perspectives which possibly is kind of missing in some other things. So can you put it together as to how this book differentiates itself from the others?
Let me take you through a small example. One of my students was working for a engineering manufacturing company, and he called me and sometime late in the evening and he said, "Ma'am, I want some details on how to manage a merger. I've been asked to give a small, write-up, and I've been given only about 14 hours to do this." So I could not answer that question very easily at that time. One of the ways in which this book would help is it will offer help to a young practitioner in the form that would be most easy for him to use. For example, if you know what another company similarly is doing or has done, and straight from the horse's mouth, so to say, from the person who has practiced it and blogged about it, it would be more interesting for you to copy that maybe or endorse that in your organization. So that's one thing that I think is very different here.
Excellent. So one quick question from me is, this is more about inclusivity, right? So this book is in the current form and shape because I'm sure you have an inclusive approach. So what is that approach, or what kind of an approach did you take from inclusion point of view in terms of using your past students or the current ones, and what is their contribution towards this?
Preceding every chapter, there is a short commentary or a mentor message written by a senior HR luminary practicing in the industry today. I have been very fortunate to have got very good people to contribute to this. So over and above the 25 chapters that do contribute to the subject in terms of answering the questions of what, why, where and how, we also have the practitioner's perspective in telling us what has been done, what can be done or what should be done. I think that is a very interesting perspective. Instead of putting my own profile there, I thought it would be interesting to not only share the ideas of someone who is practicing in the organization, but also someone who is much senior to me in terms of their work experience. So to that extent, I think I have made it much more reachable and more practical for the young person to use.
We know that the book is divided into 4 broad themes. Could you please elaborate more on that?
To start with, it was not divided under any domains. Later on, when we put the matter together and looked at it as a comprehensive kind of a material, we were able to see that there are 4 broad areas on which the concept of HRD is being written about. To start with, you have the strategy-centric approach, which looks at areas like strategic planning, organizational behavior, organizational development, HR analytics, as well as mergers and acquisitions. The second part, which we got to know through our empirical evidence, different organizations are doing different things. Some organizations are focusing on engagement, some are focusing on mentoring, some are focusing on competency development, some are focusing on building creativity skills. So we looked at employee empowerment as a second domain. The third one was a lot of organizations today are spending a lot of money and time on aligning organizations towards getting more from employees, making them productive, effective, and through different ways. So we looked at change. The last domain is learning and development, which is, there's lots about it, but we had a lot of focus on the new areas of learning, like the concept of deutero learning or blended learning or 70-20 ratio learning. And we looked at learning, training, development, and under that we had coaching, mentoring, etc.
Ma'am, you did mention that this book was an outcome of your 20 plus years of and what Almanac does is predicts better for future as well. What is your view about future of HR and how do you think HR will evolve from where it is now?
I'm proudly telling you that I have trained, developed and built capacities in more than 2,000 students, and they're all doing wonderfully well. They're doing 10 times better than I'm doing as a teacher of HR. It's just an indication to tell you that HR is here to stay, and there is definitely a big market for HR. In my view, I think there are 2 facets to HR, and I'm going to say something very sensational. One is the organizational business oriented HR, and the other is the employee welfare oriented HR. I think there's a market for both, and I'm very lucky to be developing 2 programs, the MSW HR program and the MHRM program. The MHRM program focuses on business development in HR, and the MSW program concentrates on corporate social responsibility and the welfare orientation. So I personally think that it's just how organizations would like to position themselves, and I'm seeing a lot of demand for HR from both these domains.
Is there a personal favorite in terms of the chapters?
No. Just like a mother can never have a favorite child, this is my book, and every chapter in this book is equally important. And I value, more than the book, I value the research behind the book. And so every young student who contributed to this book through the chapters is very important for me. According to me, that is the nice thing about this book. You may not be able to read the whole book at a time, which is what is given today. None of us are going to be able to read a 400-page book at a time. So the interesting thing about this book is you can pick up one chapter. Say that day you want to do something on coaching and mentoring, or you want to do something on organizational learning. You pick up the chapter on that, just go through it, skim through it, and okay, it will give you some ideas to put together and maybe use it. And maybe at a later day, keep it. It's a book for the library. It's a book for the HR library.
I'm sure writing a book would have sometimes kind of given you an emotion or a feeling that you struck at something which you never possibly looked at, either from a professional perspective or from a personal equation perspective. So is there something which really kind of struck you as a key theme which is not getting its due attention in HR today, or a certain kind of note of experience which really kind of made you value something which has always been kind of considered very relevant and important for HR?
In our research, which we did as part of every chapter, I asked one sensational question. Every chapter had one sensational question. The reason I call it a sensational question is it makes the person think and it forces him to give an answer. One of the interesting things that I had asked, which is part of the learning and development chapter, was, can learning be quantified? Should learning be quantified? And if it is quantified, will it be valuable? Will organizations? So I think that is something that is very, very interesting, and I believe that this is an era of quantification. This is an era of metrics. This is an era of measures. But in spite of all of that, there are some things that you can't quantify and they still belong. An organization cannot wish that away. Another thing which I would like to reiterate is wellness. Maybe organizations think that there are many other bodies and organizations and institutions that can contribute in a big way, but it is still in the domain of HR to take care of the wellness of an employee. There is a huge emphasis in our book on diversity. We have a chapter on diversity management. We also have a chapter on diversity actions, what organizations should be doing, what they should be including. And organizations are being forced to look at diversity not only from the point of view of gender, but also so many other things. You have special provisions for the differently abled, you have provisions for different races, communities, and I like the fact that the book has got a global reach. We have picked up from the global practices and put it there.
If the target audience is going to be a young professional passed out 5-6 years who want to know the methodology to implement a lot of stuff in the 4 areas that the book is talking about, how are you planning to reach out to them in terms of how are you planning to market that to that particular group?
The Department of Social Work and the Department of Human Resource Management has been running an HRD platform for the last 30 years. During this year's HRD forum, which is incidentally called Tantra, we hope to showcase this book and discuss the theme of this book completely. So the marketing platform begins there. The book is also likely to be available by the end of this month on online platforms like Amazon, Flipkart and others. And I'm hoping for that through word of mouth, the message will go through and people would be interested in receiving it.